Welcome to Tiny Show and Tell Us, the bonus series where you write in with your favorite science news or factoid, we read your email aloud, and then dive deeper. I'm Sam Jones, and I am here with my co-host, Deboki Chakravarti.
Hi, Sam. Last time we talked about how climate change might affect people who are on certain medications, and also how fetuses can distinguish between rhythmic patterns underlying different languages. And it was really cool.
Very cool.
So if you guys want to help us make more of these episodes, we would appreciate that because it's a lot of fun. We love talking about everything that you guys send in. It's really cool just to see the range of things that you guys come across. So just as a reminder that if you would like to contribute, all you need to do is email tinymatters@acs.org or fill out the form linked in the episode description. Sam, I think you're up.
Alrighty. And this is a very interesting one. Okay, so this is from listener Tammy, who wrote in saying, in all caps, squirrel pox, and then continues by saying, I have a family of squirrels that I feed regularly and keep track of in my backyard. I noticed that one has strange growths all over its body. I then learned about squirrel pox being a thing, !
Yeah.
Thankfully, it recovered, but apparently it can be quite deadly, and I didn't notice any of the other squirrels having growths. How is it passed? How contagious is it? Can people get it? How common is it? Are there certain nutrients that could help it? Okay, a lot of questions, but this is a very fascinating topic. We're going to get into it. So, squirrel pox. Deboki, have you heard of squirrel pox before?
No, and I am a noted squirrel hater, but I don't know that I would wish pox on squirrels.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty neutral. I think.
I should be. I think it's like one of the weirder things about me, but it's just like in college I had bad squirrel experiences, and even though the ones here are like cute and fine, it's just like I'm always a little suspicious of squirrels.
Yeah. At my college, so I went to Vassar, and there were like the most confident squirrels ever on that campus because like no one would do anything to them. So you'd be riding a bike and they would just chill, and they're like, it's going to go around me. And that was so annoying.
Yeah, we like had like squirrels in our like my friends and I, we lived in a house together in college, and these squirrels were like on our front porch just like screaming at us and like
oh wow. Okay. I did have one of my friends in college, he left his window open at one point and had some snacks, and a squirrel just came in and was just straight up eating them. Oh my God. He came in the room and the squirrel just kept looking at him and eating them. So anyways, okay. So I feel actually fine about squirrels.
Yeah, that's good.
An annoyance at times,
yeah,
but they're kind of cute. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, squirrel pox. Squirrel pox also goes by the name squirrel fibroma, and it's caused by a virus that'll produce tumors on the skin. It seems like red, gray, and fox squirrels are the three types of squirrels that you're going to see this in. Fox squirrels, I didn't actually know what those looked like, but they're the ones that have some gray, but then they have like bits of orange as well. And I think I've seen them, but I just had no idea they weren't just a variation of a gray squirrel. So anyhow, the squirrel pox virus belongs to the pox group of viruses, which also cause rabbit fibromatosis, rabbit myxomatosis, I think is how you say it, hare fibromatosis, and some deer fibromas. So in all of these cases, you're getting these tumors that are arising on the skin. And squirrel pox has been reported across North America as well as Europe. In terms of how it spreads, this virus can be transmitted between individuals through saliva or mating, but also stuff that's contaminated, like maybe there's a feeder where a bunch of squirrels will congregate. Also, the virus can be transmitted by mosquito and flea bites. It's always mosquitoes and fleas.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Zika mosquito, dengue mosquito, plague fleas.
Yeah.
Like so we did an episode of Tiny Show and Tell Us a little while back on wasps, where Deboki and I, like, we voiced our disdain for wasps. And we were like, is anyone even team wasp?
Yeah.
And someone wrote in, who is team wasp?
Yeah.
Justice for wasps. And so if there's a justice for fleas person, like, email us. Let us know why. Because in my opinion, there is no upside to fleas.
Yeah. And mosquitoes too. Is there an upside to mosquitoes?
Right. Like, so with mosquitoes, I know that mosquitoes are like a big food source for a lot of animals. And so I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I guess you can kind of, but like, what is the trade-off?
Right.
Anyways, we could really go down. We need to do like, we have done episodes where we have talked about mosquitoes a lot, but I'm like, we just need to do a mosquito episode. Anyway, squirrel pox is another example of these insects being terrible. So Tammy asked, how common is squirrel pox? The good news in North America at least, is that there are not many documented cases of it each year, and it doesn't seem super deadly. So in severe cases, the growths can interfere with a squirrel's ability to see or eat, which is really sad, and of course puts them at a much higher risk of predation. But generally speaking, the animals will recover without a big impact on the population. However, in some parts of Europe, it's been really devastating. In Wales, for example, I found an article about this from 2023. Squirrel pox reportedly killed up to 80% of the red squirrels over the winter. But the non-native gray squirrels seem to carry the virus, but not be impacted. So there's something going on between red squirrel versus gray squirrel. So yeah, red squirrels, they have a very high mortality rate. And they'll experience like panting and lethargy, and they'll get swollen tumors around their mouth and nose and eyes. And they usually die within 2 weeks, which is really sad. I feel like even if you're not a person who likes squirrels, it's like, that is so sad.
For sure.
So right now, actually, there's this big push in Wales and potentially other parts of the UK to create a vaccine for this, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Also very hard to deploy a vaccination strategy in the wild, but still very interesting. It's cool. And so then Tammy also asked, of course, can it cross species? So yes, it has been transmitted to other animals like woodchucks in the wild, and I guess in a lab setting to rabbits, which is not so surprising because they're somewhat related, and also these pox viruses. Yeah, it's not shocking. But important note, it cannot be transmitted to humans or to your household pet, like your dog or your cat. And there isn't a cure at this point. But one suggestion is just to get rid of sources of standing water where mosquitoes can breed, which is generally just a good idea because mosquitoes, as we just talked about, can pass on a lot of things. And squirrel pox is just now on that list.
Oh, mosquitoes.
But yeah, I had no idea. I didn't know about squirrel pox.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm a squirrel hater, but I don't think I would I don't want the pox for them.
No.
That's like really sad that so many of the red squirrels like in Wales, 80%. Like that population just sounds like got decimated.
I know. Yeah, it's very, very sad. And it will be really interesting to see. I mean, the article I saw was from 2023. I didn't come across anything showing that there is a vaccine, but I think it was more just people in the UK were like, this is a big issue.
Right.
We really, really need a vaccine.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I have something from listener Wesley, who wrote, part of the reason why Napoleon's army lost the Battle of Waterloo is because the military uniforms used tin buttons, but the cold temperatures ruined the buttons, so the army did not survive as well in the cold temperatures. Okay, so Tien did a lot of work digging around on this, and the big takeaway is that we don't know if this is true. The premise of it, though, is really interesting. The premise is like that as the weather starts to get cold, the bonding structure of tin starts to change, and that around 56 degrees Fahrenheit, so like not even that cold. Like
that's a beautiful New England spring day.
Yeah, for sure. Like right now, I would love a 56 degree Fahrenheit day, you know? So basically the idea is that could have like evaporated the soldiers' buttons. And
it could have evaporated them?
Well, like not evaporated. Basically, like they would have just gone poof.
Oh.
Yeah.
They would have just like degraded?
Crumbled, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there are a few articles and videos about this, and there is like truth to that premise, like that science. So tin is similar to carbon in that it has different forms. The main ones are called alpha tin and beta tin. And beta tin is silverish, metallic. It's easy to hammer into different shapes, which makes it great for a lot of different uses, including buttons, except that when it gets cold, beta tin is not super stable. At around just that like 56 degree Fahrenheit point, it turns into alpha tin, which is brittle and so like just a lot less effective.
Yeah.
So the science of this bears out, but does that mean that the history part does? And again, we don't know. Tien did find a war history site that breaks down why it probably isn't true, though, that this is like the case for Napoleon's army. One is that around this time, a lot of armies used wood or bone buttons because that was just a lot cheaper.
Bone buttons is creepy to me.
I know.
Like, I understand maybe it's from like, no.
I mean, it could have been from animals. Like, I don't know. Who knows?
I know. Back then, though, anything that has bone, I'm like, it was a person.
Yeah.
It was a person.
For sure. And so there were tin buttons in Napoleon's army, but like they probably weren't super common. The other thing is that the tin they would have been using was probably pretty impure. and that would have actually made it more resistant to cold.
Oh,
so,
right.
you know, again, we don't know, but
Had a bunch of like other elements in it. Like
Yeah.
I'm making this up, but like iron or like random stuff that's not gonna
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
degrade the way that a beta
pure,
to alpha
yeah.
would go for tin. Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. And so like that's like where impurities are actually like kind of useful, right?
Yeah.
But I think the most damning thing is just that we like don't have any accounts from soldiers suggesting that their tin buttons were causing problems. Like it does seem like that's something that would have like cropped up in an account or two.
Yeah.
Unless it was just like so trivial that they were like, no.
Right. Where they're like, it's weird now because I'm just wearing an open jacket all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So for now, at least, I think there doesn't seem to be enough evidence that this was the case. I'm curious how it became such a common story. I think that's like the one thing where you're like, oh, maybe it is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far, we don't have much to suggest that this is the case. I do think this is like an interesting example. Like one thing I've kind of realized from like working in science communication, like I feel like there are the things that I know how to fact check on the science side. Like you have like more of like the instincts about like how to figure out what feels right and what feels wrong. History is like weirder. Like
it's hard.
It's interesting to like see how quickly it like shifts when you just like change over to a different field where it's like, I know how to do the research in the science area, the research in the history, and like understanding what are the nuances and what are the right sources and how do you even like really find what feels like a good evidence of something happening or not happening is different.
Right. Yeah. For me, like logicking out, that's not really a word.
Yeah.
Like, finding logic to sort of to figure out if something, at least from a scientific standpoint, is reasonable or like even possible, much easier than going through literature from history.
Yeah.
And also knowing like, in this case, I don't know how propaganda would influence this story. But like there's also a lot of things where you're like, oh, well, this army did this thing. And it's like, yeah, but what person wrote that? And were they just lying?
Yeah.
So that hundreds of years later, someone like me would be like, oh, that's really interesting. They won this battle. And then there's this whole pile of literature being like, no, they didn't. That's propaganda. And I'm like, oh, I didn't come across the propaganda stuff.
Exactly.
But so
yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so hard to navigate. It's hard enough to navigate, like, even in the present day. So, like,
I know.
When you dive back into the past.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to Tammy and Wesley for submitting to Tiny Show and Tell Us, a bonus episode from Tiny Matters created by the American Chemical Society and produced by Multitude. And a big thank you to science journalist Tian Nguyen, who did the research for this episode.
You can send us an email to be featured in a future Tiny Show and Tell Us episode at tinymatters@acs.org, or you can fill out the form that's linked in the episode description. We'll see you next time.